astral track. There's a lot of different elevated frequency type of experiences that people have when they go to Mount Shasta. Some people do, some people don't. So, and I know for a fact that's based upon what your vibrational frequency is and the capacity that you have to elevate, to kind of synchronize with a frequency that's probably surrounding a place like Mount Shasta. So when it comes to that, this is something that I've been having conversations with on air and off air in regards to people. But, even those who weren't privy to what you shared about the Black nobility, I still do feel like there's a lot of us who are focusing more on the skin color of, people versus the level of, I would say, maybe energy or frequency or integrity of a person. How much does that matter in regards to where we are now? Are there some people who are of European descent that have the ability to elevate and ascend into, the higher realms of consciousness? Or is there like a cap, kind of like when you drive a U-Haul as a governor that only lets you go so fast, so far? Is that like kind of like what we're seeing with people who don't have access to neuromelanin? Or what's your take on when it comes to that?
Yeah, because the European, or I guess you could say the Canaanite, I wouldn't say all Europeans or whatever, but the great majority who comes from the Canaanite faction, they have eukaryotic cells. And eukaryotic cells is spliced DNA, and it's cultivated by sulfur. And sulfur, it blocks the spinal column to where the regeneration spinal fire doesn't rise up and hit the pineal gland, right? So they don't have the genetics to harmonize with nature. So they don't have internal monologue. Internal monologue is that little voice you hear in your head. Like I can say words in my head, just talk like that. They have to say it. They don't have internal monologue. That internal monologue is your inner child. That inner child is a soul. So they have a spirit. They don't have a soul. And you can tell by the hair follicle. Animals have spirits. People who have that non-ether genetical frequency, the coily hair, what they call the lamb, they just put out a coronal mass ejection, the sunspot, that coronal hole, it looked like the sign of the lamb, right? It's like it's talking about the activation of nature. So they, like I said, you have to have a certain genetic format to activate those genetics.
Yeah. But
that doesn't necessarily mean that you come from the cursed bloodline. You got some Europeans that come from the Pleiadian faction, right? Yeah, you talk about when you go on the Norse mythology, the Nordics or whatever, some of them individuals were high vibrational. They're not connected to that same seed.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot, as far as like the cultivation of racism, imperialism, colonization, the system that they built that's based on economic disenfranchisement, all these things that's, that afflicted the planet, that's most likely coming from the faction of that Canaanite.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the first Canaanite was black. Like I said, you had to have the, genetics, and it's kind of like the same, the Yaqub story. Right.
Somebody in the comments mentioned that. They brought that up too.
Remember, he said what did he say to his brother Yushak? It's basically the same as the Inky and Enlil story. He said, "I will create a people that's going to rule over you for 6,000 years. That 6,000 years is over." This is why you're seeing everything changing. Yeah, because the bloodline he created, that European he created, them blackamoors he created that gave the edification to the European. Their time is running out. It's over.
Oh, yeah.
So then the best way to understand the difference between a black nobility, blackamoor, the ones that, that chose the side of, hedonistic culture and the corporation, those are the ones that's in your religion, your pastor, your preachers, the ones that's in Freemasonry, in Luciferianism, the ones that's, gatekeepers of the movie industry, music industry. That's how you can tell the energy. Those that's connected to the planet, we're trying to get away from the corporation. The ones who want to, keep the corporation going, that's how you know who's a part of the seeds of Enlil in terms of energy and mindset.
Yes, sir. And I've seen like videos of, I'm assuming that it's a version of Enki and of Enlil, and I'm very confident the videos that I've seen. But one of them looks like a brother who's like of Middle Eastern descent, and he has on like a white head wrap, and he has the beard, and he kind of looks like Middle Eastern. And then there's another one who I've been seeing, and he's a brother like about my complexion. He got a beard too, and then he wears like a white cap. I think he has like gold on the white suit that I see him in. Are those any like type of connections or correlations to Enki and Enlil in a modern day, I guess modern day time, or is that like something else that I'm seeing when I see like these people who are servicing on the internet?
The guy that you seeing that they talking about in real time is a black guy named King Yahweh.
Okay.
So, but that's not the real Yahweh, because Yahweh, when you get into the Tetragrammaton, it means agreeable and disagreeable. So he is Enlil. So Yahweh, Enlil, Yaldabaoth, that's the same person. So he's not an artist. So he's just a regular individual. I would say regular because I think he's like a prince or something or whatever. But as far as like him controlling certain factions, as far as like governments and controlling Europeans or whatever, I don't think that's, I think people are getting too caught up into the mythology with that. But as far as like the Maitreya, I think that was a real instance that took place. They talking about the Maitreya who came to, I think he came to the Congo. And he said that he stood about 7 feet tall, and he had like healing and supernatural powers. And then they said when he was walking away, he just vanished in thin air. And he said he's back. Yeah, so that can be because the Maitreya, I think it was in certain forms of ancient Proto-Semitic language, Maitreya translates to Enlil. So that could
now
go ahead.
My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
But yeah, so that can be because Maitreya, like Enlil, that's pretty much when you break down the linguistics of the word and you get into the etymon and all that, his name translates to Enlil.
Yep. Now, is this the one that looks Middle Eastern, or is that the one that's more mellow?
He the one that looks Middle Eastern with the beard.
Right. Now with Enlil, so Enlil is like but he's the representation of the disagreeable Anunnaki. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Right. So what would be the purpose of him making an appearance and like coming back? Like, what would you think would be the reason for that? Because I saw that footage.
I don't know. Some say that the great it's certain tribes in Africa that's a part of that bloodline. That's why you see the great majority of those cardinals. I don't know where most of them come from in the Vatican, in the first black nobility Vatican popes of Rome. The great majority of them were African. They never, just like I said, none of them was never American. Right. You got your first so-called American pope who's actually black. I mean, when you look at his maternal family, but like I said, just because I can't identify as a rabbit, and I ain't no damn rabbit, you know what I'm saying? But we already know what time it is. They just trying to scramble up the mythology because they don't want people to know that black nobility is running the church, the Vatican. Because it started with a melanated pope, it has to end with a melanated pope.
Yeah, wow.
He's a black passing as white type of European, I guess.
Oh yeah. It's so funny though because that's something that definitely has been talked about thoroughly on this channel, definitely on yours as well in regards to that happening. But it's funny, I thought it was cute the way they kind of slipped him in there versus just putting a straight up brother in there. But I guess
trick knowledge. That's all it was. Yeah. And even when you look at that, I even proved that there's another Pope Leo the 14th. That's what they do to throw you off. They make two of everything. Just like you have then you have a Europeanized one too. But the black one controls the European. That's where they get the edification from. I showed a art piece. It shows the blackamoors. They was all in circle, in cipher, triangulating. And then it shows the Europeans riding on the goat. Because when you ride on the goat to go out and triangulate, that means to go out and cause chaos and mischief. That's what they use the European for. They're the ones who coached them, right? So that's why I said you got two different bloodlines on this planet.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, and because it's all kind of like to keep the veil, over our eyes, pretty much. Like they don't want us to wake up to seeing what's really happening. But at the end of the day, you can't stop it. Like it's kind of like COVID. Like it's spreading too far. Consciousness is spreading too far. The frequencies are spreading too far. The damn Golden Globe thing ain't gonna happen. I don't know what that's about, but whatever. So it's just like it ain't gonna stop what the Creator's doing. You know what I mean? Like so, we're gonna rise and we're gonna continue to elevate by any means necessary, and ain't nothing they can do to stop it. We're here now. So with that, I know we're running close on time. With everything that we covered, and we covered a whole lot. Yeah, a whole lot, and it's pretty dope. I love it. With all that we've covered, though, where would you say, based upon, I know you got a lot, probably you're going to bring out the vote next week for, for the BDELL1014 channel, and then, social media as well. But where would you say we are right now in regards to this current existence, as well as what we can expect between maybe some of the calamities or maybe some of the catastrophes, or if we just see, some sort of like magnificent, display of transformation, immediately for us to kind of see the shift of the planet going from the dark lunar cycle into the bright solar cycle, of which we're heading right now with the Aquarian age?
Well, we will indeed see more calamity as it's a part of the process. The planet is going through a birthing process. Mother Nature has got to go through those 9 cycles. Just like when a woman gives birth, the planet is doing the same thing. But that rebirth in itself is a form of destruction. It's a beautiful destruction. And it's a beautiful destruction because that means that the matriarch is coming back. So some people think like just because they have calamity, you losing your house and your job and stuff like that, these are all emotional attachments that's connected to the energy of the moon. Mm-hmm. So the fall of the material world is basically moonfall. So it's one of those things where you just got to let it play out. Just let it play out and then start from the ground up. Right? So like I said, it's a shifting process. Everything has to go through reset. It's inevitable that something has to happen. There's always a shift in consciousness. There's always a shift in cycles that takes place every 80 years. And those 80 years is connected to the cosmic clock. And then you got the doomsday clock is almost at 12. It's almost, it's almost at 0. I mean, so it's one of those. So we're due for a certain calamity. We don't know when it's going to happen. They say that the volcano is going to erupt on June 5th. So they say, but these are all codexes though. I don't really take what they say for face value as far as like time stamps or whatever, but a lot of these things is actually going to be taking place in the future. So we got to be prepared for it.
Oh yeah.
But they look at it as like a loss. It's not a loss. You should want this corporate infrastructure to fall and be destroyed. I want it to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I understand the big picture of it. You know what I'm saying? Give a damn about, my house and my car got flooded, but you see what's going on. The restoration process has to happen by way of the activation of nature. It has to happen. People talking about they want the system to reset, but do they really want it to reset?
Right.
Are they really like with that? They care about losing their house, their cars, and all this other stuff, and sinkholes and all that. They talking about a raise in consciousness. That's what happened. Like the more we raise up in consciousness, the more the more the planet is going to vibrate in frequency.
Oh yeah.
So that means that the more that we get this knowledge, the more that we're going to create these calamities. But like I said, it can, it's a dualistic paradox we living in too. We don't know if it's being engineered by them or if it's being engineered by our consciousness that's connected to nature. Thing to look at, but we asked for it, so we can't be mad when certain things happen. We can't be scared. I'm not scared.
Not at all. Me either. Because this is the physical body, man.
It's all part of the program.
Yeah, it's funny because I share with people like when it comes to this thing called life, I look at it like if you look at this current and present existence, I look at it like when we come into this physical body, this meat suit, whatever you want to call it, this, temporary tomb, whatever you want to call it, it's only for just that, a temporary, amount of time. It's like when you get a rental car, when you get that rental car, you pull off the lot. Yeah, you stunting with it during that time that you got under that agreement, but you got to return that thing at some point in time. Like that's the same thing as this body. So for me, I feel like I've done enough shadow work and spiritual work and tapping in work and all that to where I'm comfortable with my spiritual self or my spirit body, my work body, because I know I've been able to like really manipulate and use that in this physical form. So therefore, at the end of the day, when we go to sleep, that's a form of almost like death. Like the body is unconscious, for the most part, we're breathing, but we're not like we are right now. And therefore, when we actually transition, it's not going to be much more different, of a process than us going to sleep. We'll kind of tap back into that spiritual aspects of ourselves and continue to do the work in another dimension. So right now, I think most people would say that we're in a third dimension reality, right? Would you agree with that?
We're in the third dimension, but we're breaking out of it.
So where do we go next? Do we go to the fourth or do we go to the fifth?
We're in the fourth right now. So the reason I said we in the fourth because we're breaking out the demiurge. Because the demiurge is comprised of the fourth dimension and the lower third dimension.
Mm.
So once you get out of the fourth dimension, that's when you get to the apex of the galactic center that ties you right back into the true spiritual sun, Polaris.
Mm. Yeah, that's deep. Now, our actual sun that we have now, which is throwing the solar flares, there's also like black holes, or there's like holes in that sun to where I've seen where there are like portals or gateways to where there are crafts and beings coming in and out of our actual sun, right? Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a portal, and those coronal holes, they contain magnetic filaments, so it's a form of an enhancement of electrical conduction. So those quasi-electrical energies that's coming to the planet is giving a electrical vibration to planet Earth to electrify the masses. That's what that's all about. So the same thing, like, you know, it is a portal of consciousness too. That's what the sun is. It's really a portal of consciousness to get outside, you know, this Metatronic overlay. And then you got the moon. The moon is a portal for reincarnation. That's all it is. Because everything is connected to the moon, like your veneration for food, sex, movies, anything that's connected to external stimulation, that is connected to the energy of the moon. So that's why I said if you have an emotional connected to everything on this planet, your essence is going to come in that perpetual state of reincarnation through the moon, through Saturn, coming right back.
Now, do you see, because, you know, the moon that's there now is not actually the original moon that's, I guess, supposed to be in alignment with this planet, right? That was brought here by, was it the Draconian beings that pulled that moon into this solar system, or do you know who's responsible for pulling that moon over here where it's at now?
I call them archons, and archons are known as draconians. So also in Japanese folklore, they say that the dragon towed the moon into our solar system. And then even when you get into Zulu mythology, talking about Credo Mutwa, he said that there was no moon in our solar system at one point in time. And it wasn't no sun either. It was gray skies. That was, you know, that's according to their mythology. He also talks about the Chitahari, the draconian reptilian, bringing the moon into our solar system, because the moon is a form of control humans on a planet by way of energy, frequency, and vibration. And once they cultivate that vibration, they can control you by way of your mindset that's connected to the simulation.
That's deep, because that goes back to, like, for those who are on the call, and I know some tribe members who either are on the call or that know somebody who works in the medical field, that would then speak to why you see there's a spike in like violence or aggression and all these different types of energies in the emergency rooms or in hospitals during full moons. Does that have like an effect of what we're talking about now? How significant is the influence of the moon over people's behavior and energies?
Well, the moon is an artificial celestial megastructure that is creating the silver cord that controls the parasites. So when you see the enhancement in the moon at full spectrum, when it's at full moon spectrum, what happens is it activates those parasites. So this is where you get a lot of calamity, a lot of, you know, murders and all this stuff, or whatever, you know, hospitals, police activity, crime activity going on. You're talking about the enhancement of parasites, because parasites, they replicate themselves on an infinite level based on the energy of the moon, because it creates an energy of chaos. So see, the parasites is really talking about the extraterrestrial invasion, because the archons, they created the parasite that's connected to the simulation to control the humans on planet Earth. That's how they control you, with the parasites. It's kind of like a tracking system, right? That's what a parasite is. It's a tracking system to control humans on the planet, to carry out certain agendas that's connected to the binary code system of the simulation. So that's why when you get into gematria, everything operates on a numerical cycle that's connected to the binary code system, that's connected to the energy of the moon. Because when you look at the zeros and ones of, you know, binary code or whatever, the 0 represents dark matter energy and the 1 represents a photon. And when you amalgamate both of them together, that creates physical reality. And the physical reality is being controlled by archons who created parasites within the genetically modified foods. And you got parasites in everything on this planet. So everything is infiltrated to control humans to carry out certain agendas. That's all it is.
And shout out to D. Ross. They said that's why you're supposed to do a parasite cleanse starting 2 days before the full moon.
Yeah,
that's deep.
Everything is connected. So that's why I say, like, because, you know, You also got, psychotronic nanotechnology in the food, and it's in the water. It's like, you can barely even see it. It's like and you ever heard of a plank?
Yeah.
A plank is like the smallest unit in the universe.
Mm.
It's like, it's a microcosmic aspect of a subatomic particle.
Is it smaller than a neutrino? Because I know neutrinos are very small too.
Yeah, neutrinos is what you see when you sneeze. When you sneeze and you see those particles, neutrinos.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was small.
Because when you sneeze, your heart stops. That's the closest thing you get to death. So
you're
really in it when you sneeze, a real hard sneeze, you're really in the in between.
Wow, never knew that. You learn something new every day. That's deep. Okay, excuse me. We got a lot of comments in the chat, but I know how much longer you got, bro? Because that'll let me know how many more.
My son, he in there playing, so I can.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's what's up. So now with that, man, I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna go. Let me get a couple of the tribes questions real quick before I go into mine. So here's one right here. Shout out to Nkosi. He says, "How do you cleanse yourself to get rid of these parasites?"
Somebody say you can do like a duck flower. I don't know. I've never taken that. They said it's really good for to cleanse the gut and things of that nature. It's going to make you throw up, and I don't know. I'm not going to recommend that to anybody or whatever, but it's all on you if you want to do that. Or you can do like chlorophyll, magnesium supplements and stuff like that. You can go to Dr. Yaki's. He got a lot of supplements that can help you with cleansing the body or whatever. But like anything that contains like a metal extraction, because parasites, they have the ability to hide themselves in the metals in your body. So you want to do a metal cleanse.
Oh, hold on. I saw one, but it moved. They're going so fast. This is one, Nkosi. You're welcome, brother. I definitely see about here goes some more too. I'll add those to the screen as well. But in regards to the let me see, what did we not hit? Because there's a couple of different things I wanted to hit. I didn't know if I was gonna have time for, so let me check out my notes. But when it comes to like extraterrestrial visitations, right? I had one I did last Saturday about that, and I shared the Gulf Breeze craft that landed in like 1987 in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And then like what was nuts about it, the very next day, I'm not sure who runs the 9 Ether channel on Instagram, but that's a dope page that I follow too. But they shared the very next day, they shared the video footage of the photographer who caught the picture of that craft. And I'm like, yo, this is nuts, because I had never seen the video footage of the craft, but I always seen the picture like from Dr. York's books or just online, what have you. And so when I saw the video, I'm like, yo, that's dope. Like the timing of it was crazy, being that I just did a live the night before and then I seen that the next day. I'm like, I don't feel like that's a coincidence, but I personally seen a lot of different crafts coming in and out of the atmosphere, and I was able to record, I think 2 of them I have on video, and then I've got some pictures of a few more. Have you ever personally had any experiences with any extraterrestrial crafts, or have you ever seen any crafts, in real time before?
No, I've had just supernatural experiences, but I've never had experience with a craft. But there's this thing called the vector codes. Vector codes, they can give you 9th dimensional knowledge to where you're able to control crafts with your brain capacity.
That
goes into ancient Taoism, and I ain't talked about that yet, but I don't want to,
I got you. Yeah, we can save it. Listen, because I do know the Dr. Stephen Greer, I believe is his name. He has this thing where they do the I forgot what they call it, but like he gets a group of people together like on a beach or somewhere out in nature, and they all get together and they kind of like meditate together to try to kind of invoke or try to connect or communicate with extraterrestrial crafts. And they have, I think they showed a few where they did kind of have some contact or what have you. But in regards to the crafts that are coming in and out of the planets, like some of the ones you've seen and shared on your channel, who do you feel like these beings are, and why do you feel like they're coming here now, where we're seeing so much of the footage that's being captured and shared around the planet in regards to extraterrestrial activity?
See, the great majority of them actually come from the ocean. There's a book that you got to read. Well, I'm pretty sure you already read it before. This is kind of like Conspiracy 101, Behold a Pale Horse.
Yeah.
The naval intelligence officer, he said that he's seen spacecrafts coming from the ocean. He said he never seen them coming from the sky. And then there's a woman who lived in Southern Illinois, a black woman in the 1920s. She seen a spaceship come from her lake. So they have the ability to travel, but the great majority of them that's controlling those crafts or whatever are grays. And the reason that they're grays is because grays don't have a certain genetic format to replicate themselves on an infinite level when you're talking about being able to procreate, because they don't have any type of biological functions. They don't have, they can't reproduce. So they come to the planet to abduct people. So this goes into the Majestic 12. The Majestic 12 is basically amalgamated with, insectoids, draconians, and the Zeta Reticula grays. And they use everything in it's like a harvesting planet. That's what the demiurge is all about. The demiurge is really coming to the planet to suck up microscopic waves of energy to control humans and basically put them in a state of trafficking and things of that nature. That's why, how do, 800,000 kids come up missing every year, on time, every time? That's because it's being done at the highest level of government. And those governments is in connection with these extraterrestrial entities for trafficking. That's why this is all Canaanite worship. What you had to do in order to get, riches and stuff in the Canaanite culture, you had to sacrifice somebody to the god of Moloch, right? And the god of Moloch is Baal, and Baal is Enlil, who is Yodabath, the same person. Yeah, you see, it all ties all the way back together, bro.
Yeah, listen. It do. And listen, I'm gonna get his brother. I'm gonna ask his brother his question because he sent love, saying, shout out to DJ, always supporting brother BDELL Illuminati. I'm on to you. Question is, young Pharaoh, Rashad Jamal down for COINTELPRO in your opinion? I know these forces always working against the chosen. What's your take?
Salute to them two brothers. You know what I'm saying? They, they're going through, detrimental situations or whatever. I spoke to young Pharaoh probably, maybe about 3 months ago. And he's trying to revitalize his situation. I don't know what he got going on now. And, as far as, when it comes to young Pharaoh, I can say probably, I would say more than likely, because not only was he propagating, high frequency knowledge, but at the same time, he was propagating a form of masculinity. He was a real rebel. So I think, a lot of times the infiltration, process takes place when you start, connecting yourself to, politics and stuff. So once you start rubbing shoulders with those people, a lot of times, that's when you see people take a downfall. But as far as like Rashad Jamal, I don't know, I don't really know the ins and outs of his situation or what really happened. So, but, more power to them brothers. Hope they get it right.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of different stuff. I really don't get too deep into, too much that has to do with other people, only because, you and I spoke about it off air before. But and so when it comes to the rise of consciousness and it comes to where we are right now, I wasn't gonna go here, but I did see some people bring it up. I saw some people bring it up in the comments, man. So we saw, those of us who follow your channel, we saw a very interesting conversation the other night, man. Like I said, I wasn't going to go there, but I saw them, bring it up, and then, we got a little bit more time. So do you want to kind of share a little bit about the conversation that you had a couple nights ago with the brother 607?
Well, we had a conversation when we was going to tackle, the metaphysical principles about the demiurge, but, it's one of those things where when you're operating from a high vibrational frequency, a lot of times your energy is going to disrupt other people's energy. Because like I said, you become a mirror to other individuals. So what was lacking in him, he's seen in me. So it kind of reversed the polarity of the situation, and it created resistance all throughout the whole dialogue. So like I said, this is why I said it's imperative before you get into spirituality, you got to heal first. You cannot just jump into esoteric knowledge and spirituality and think that, you have the ability to, demonstrate knowledge to, different demographics of people. You got to master your emotions before you tackle, other factors of knowledge, right? Because otherwise you're going to weaponize the spirituality. You're going to weaponize it for money. You're going to weaponize it to control people. You're going to weaponize it, for your own benefit. So that's why I said you cannot just jump to esoteric knowledge and spirituality and conspiracy and skip the healing, because it's going to create spiritual psychosis, right? This is why you got so many people in the conscious community. They dealing with a lot of mental illness and mental psychosis because they're not dealing with the healing first. You got to heal first, because otherwise you're going to become over emotional. You're going to be energetically out of balance, painting your fingernails, acting like a woman, all this other stuff. Because like I said, this system is, they use this system to create a chaotic energy, right? Planet Earth is an insane asylum. So that's why I said you got to be balanced mentally, physically, spiritually, and vibrationally in order to, vibrate at your higher self. That's why I said it's one of those things where you got to be, especially with the so-called black man in America right now, you got to master your emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, from my perspective, I feel like at this point that anti-intellectualism is an attack on masculinity. Mm-hmm. They don't want black men to be intelligent. They want to keep everything dumbed down. They want you to say stuff and don't want to, explain where it came from. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I do with my information. I tell you something, I'm not going to just say that you can make up something that, there's a portal in Antarctica. Okay, yeah, but why is there a portal? And who put it there? And what's the reason behind it?
Right.
So that's what I get into. You can't just tell people stuff nowadays. Everything has to be demonstrated. Everything has to be, based on factual evidence, because you just get on these cameras and you just start saying stuff, and then all these people believing you, leading these people, astray from the real knowledge.
Yeah.
People, you got to understand what these words mean. You got to use, certain linguistics and certain words that, to get the edification across.
Right.
So that's what it's all about, man.
And I agree too. And it's funny because shout out to Sister Layla Hampton L. She was like, I was so proud of BDELL's emotional intelligence. It's funny because that's the first thing I texted you, if I'm not mistaken. Like after I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I was like, bro, I said exactly what she said. I was like, because I know when you're in those situations, that can really go left depending on who is able to control their emotions, right? And so that's one of the things that I speak about with the brothers that I mentor or that, I coach up is like energy. When you talk about emotional intelligence, if you break down the word emotion phonetically, to me, I look at it as energy in motion. You know what I mean? So if that energy, if you let your energy get away and it start to go into motion, that thing can turn into a snowball effect real quick. Right. I know personally because I used to struggle with that. And sometimes I still do. But for the most part, I've gotten a lot better handle on it. I'm grateful for that because that's where it allows me to be in control of myself. And then I can then be in control of that situation by not letting that other person's energy take control over me. And one of the things I do my best to teach, especially the young kings, is like nobody can take your power from you. Right. You can give your power away, but nobody, I don't care how powerful they are, they don't have the power to take your power from you. Because then, that's them taking your ashe or they taking, your energy or taking, whatever you are as regards to your spiritual or physical makeup. You can't let anyone take that from you. You can only give it to them. And so when in that situation, I was proud of bro too, because he sat there and held it down and didn't fold into that same, little energy, tantrum or rant. You know what I mean? So it was a dope display of emotional intelligence because we have to see a lot more of that because unfortunately our youth are being led by that kind of energy, the energy that you're talking about. So,
and like I said, in over emotionalism, like in ourselves, that's, a form of emasculation. You know what I'm saying? Acting impulsive. You got to be in control of your emotions as a man. If you want people to trust your information, you're going to just say anything that come out your head, whatever feels good or whatever, the situation at the time. You have to master yourself. You got to think before you speak. Right. But like I said, that's why within the show, if you pay attention, it showed he went through a trauma stage because it reminded him of who he actually was when he was a child. So, he was connected to that trauma to where he wasn't able to articulate himself. And when he heard me speak, he was kind of like, well, this is like a wound because this is where I want to be in life. And as far as like on a knowledgeable level, that's where I want to be, but I don't have the ability to demonstrate that. So my only rebuttal for that is to hate that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People gonna hate anything that they can't become. You know what I'm saying? So but like I said, it wasn't his destiny. That wasn't his, his autonomy to have access to those key codes and that information.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, in order to get to that level, you got to heal first.
Yeah.
You got to heal. That's when you unlock certain parts of yourself, other gateways.
Yes,
and
sir.
he's talking about the demiurge. The demiurge is the ego. He's the ego. His ego couldn't get past of me, talking above his level, right?
Yeah.
So so we got to master. You know what I'm saying? Like you master your emotions. That's what it's all about. Master your emotions, or the demiurge is going to control you.
Yeah, and I want to jump on this one. Shout out to Aaron Ishola. That's facts, because he or she says, yeah, because there's even fake and wicked babalawos that need that too. That's real, unfortunately. But I say this is like in every demographic, every environment, every situation, you're always gonna have people who doing the right work and the wrong work. You're gonna have people who does the light work and the dark work. Like that's the sides of the polarity. So I'm not gonna sit here and say all cops are bad, even though the climate does show otherwise. I know for a fact, off of my experiences, there's been times when some cops looked out for me. You know what I'm saying? Based upon the situation. You know what I mean? But there's been times when someone was some assholes that roughed me up too for no reason that I ain't even gonna say what I wanted to do. So it's like, so that's the thing about the reality of where we're living. Like there is phenomenal babalawos and yanifas out there, but unfortunately, there's some who's not doing good business. So I share that to say that we have to be very conscientious and cognizant of our past and who we're allowing to steer the ship, the boat, the plane, the car within our path and our journey. You have to really be able to tap into your inner godness, your child of godness, your inner self, your higher self, all those things that we feel intuitively, spiritually. Like you got to really be able to tap in and like bring that to the forefront. So you're letting your intuition guide you to whoever is the right person for you versus going for whoever's in front of you and you just going for whatever is there and available. Be patient and then let it happen and unfold in divine time, because that's the one thing I've seen in my own path is that you're going to have people that's going to fall off, bless you, throughout your journey. You're going to have people that's going to come across who's going to cross your path. Like we ain't even known each other a week yet and we made it happen. You know what I'm saying? Like this happened. And it's like, it's dope because I see the alignment. There was somebody in the comments after I don't know what episode, but they're like, yo, you should have Brother BDELL on there. I'm like, yo, if you know how to connect us, like, let me know. It'll be dope. And just as the universe will have it, a few days later, it happened. So it's like, that's the same thing with our spiritual journeys too. So I get what you're saying, but you just got to be conscientious of who and what you're dealing with and do your research, and check out, who it is that you're working with so you don't get stuck by one of the ones who's not doing good business.
Right.
Yeah, that's deep. And then also with the shout out to Jupiter's Light, what she's saying is real too. I just had a conversation about this recently because one of the things I've seen in the Ifa or Risha spiritual tradition is like people who get initiated. I've been a part of a lot of different ones in regards to working for, the team to put that together. And one of the things that I've seen now, I think 4.5 years in my journey, is that we do need to heal first. The way I kind of work with the people who I'm a spiritual advisor or counselor, or whatever you want to call it, therapist, whatever you want to call it, whatever that role is, I always share people like work on you, work on your journey, initiate yourself every day into your faith and your personal priesthood, because we all should be doing that regardless of what spiritual tradition that we follow, regardless of what we call the creator, or whatever that is. We all should still be working towards elevating or getting better every single day, regardless of, what that's about in regards to your spiritual journey. But at the same time, like the healing is the most significant part, because if you go through these ceremonies and these rituals into what we call a quote unquote initiation to some sort of priesthood, you're going to bring in a lot of elevated energy, and the energy is going to elevate on both sides, on the positive side and the light side, and on the dark side, because every time you elevate, what they say, new levels, new devils. That doesn't change in spirituality. It happens in all forms of life. When you got to where you are with your channel, I know you got a new plethora of trolls and haters and, people who throwing shade. That's part of the process.
There's a video. There's like, I got probably about like over 1,000 fake Facebook accounts, and people think it's me, and I'm messaging them to get money and stuff like that. Like, y'all know I don't talk like that. Like, it just sometimes, spiritual discernment, you just gotta, use common sense, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got my hands full. I don't have time to pay attention to other people and try to get money off them or scam them or whatever. And bro, I'm a full-time dad, and I got my girl, and I got my own stuff I got to deal with as far as like trying to write my book. I ain't got time to be worried about other people.
I know that's.
I have no time. All my time is putting all my time back into myself.
Facts. Big
You
facts.
know.
Yeah, that's deep. Now, before we get ready to go, a couple more. Let me see if there's any more questions in here. Balance. I'm glad somebody mentioned that about balance. It's not, I don't know if they put a question before, but I'm going to bring it up. When you talked about balance, you were saying about how in order for us to kind of elevate as a person, we got to have that balance of masculine and feminine principle. Can you kind of share like what some of those regards are? Because I know when it comes to like studying and wisdom and knowledge, this and that, like they say people who know how to use both sides of their brains are usually, you know, further when it comes to like intelligence, because you're able to activate both the left and the right hemispheres, you know, of the brain. Can you kind of share how the balance of that comes into elevation, you know, the elevation of the consciousness or leveling up, as you know, what we talk about?
All right, being able to balance, you have to compartmentalize certain energies. So, like I said, too much of anything is bad for you. So, like I said, if you work out more than you read, you're still out of shape. So you got to balance those energies out, balance out the physical and the spiritual. That's what makes you a master. 360 degrees of the physical, 360 degrees of the spiritual. You combine them together, that's 720 degrees of knowledge. That's when you tap into the apex of Christ consciousness. It happens by way of balance, the balance of the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain, because it activates magnetites and dendrites that creates more neurons. And those neurons ties the brain together to where you become whole. You cannot be holy until you become a whole brain thinker.
Mm.
They understand that in the esoterics. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only way you could become a God. Balance is God. That's the God frequency. Gamma radiation, right? So you got to be balancing your energies in order to tap into that, that metaphysical state.
That's what's up. Yeah, I love it, man. So I know we definitely went in and we went hard, man. Anything you want to share with the people in regards to like what you got going on and what you got coming up in the very near future before we get out of here?
Well, I got something going on with Yaki in Stone Mountain, Georgia, in Atlanta on June 28th. And then I believe I'm going to be at the Knowledge Fest in August, sometime in August or whatever. And I'm still debating on the Quantum Fest. I'm supposed to be going to the Quantum Fest in Houston, Texas. So I don't know if I'm going to that. So those are the all four of the things that I got on my agenda. I'm also working on a book right now, and it's going to be based on, healing, the black sheep of the family, chosen ones. It's going to be based on mind science technology, and I'm going to break it down from a historical perspective as well. That's pretty much all I'm doing right now. Just, write my book and preparing for all these, these other outlets and trips and whatever.
I love it. Yeah, I look forward to crossing paths with you, man, and chopping it up in person in the near future for sure. And also one of the other things that I love how you break down, and I'm not very familiar with it, but based off of what I've heard from you, the way you share and speak about it, to me, in my mind, I'm thinking it kind of ties into like the tools I use in regards to divination. But can you kind of speak about this thing called gematria and like how gematria is a way that you can kind of, get clarity or get insight on different things by breaking it down numerically?
Yeah. First of all, we have to understand that everything in the simulation is numerical, right? So since everything in the simulation is numerical, that means that that numerical component is connected to a gematria body. Your physical vessel in itself is what we call the gematria body. But in order to escape it, that's when you tap into the Zohar, which is your higher self that's connected to source. So the gematria body is tether connected to everything in the simulation. So that's why when you look up certain words or certain events that took place in the gematria calendar, they line up with other things that took place within that dimensional reality or whatever time period or whatever era. So if I look up, the gematria for the New York Knicks versus Pacers or whatever, it's going to be a numerical sequence that's in alignment with that event. So that's how you know that everything they do is based on numerical cycles. You can predict what's going to happen just by way of the gematria.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely this. Yeah, I like that because
It's the binary code. That's how you hack the matrix system.
yeah,
You understand
yeah,
the calendar. Just like,
mm-hmm,
all right, for instance, best way I can explain it, like when you had that event that took place in 2001 with the buildings or whatever,
mm-hmm,
the first
mm-hmm,
building hit and it fell at 1028.
mm-hmm.
1028 is the 128 code. The 128 code is the 911 code. And the 911 code is the code to get back to the galactic center because those two buildings was a representation of the tuning forks that connects you right back to the galactic center of Jack and Boaz and Freemasonry. So the 9 is what represents the galactic center when you're going all the way back. And then the 128 code is connected to the bridge. That's how you can tell what's going to happen next. That's how I be, catching them. I'm just by way of the cycles and looking at what happened, when the sun was at solar maximum. You see, that's the thing though. This is why it's imperative to understand, like, when it comes to, getting stuck in religion, some people don't even get into the esoteric knowledge because they stuck in the Islam. They stuck into the religion because if you want to get to the truth, you can't just be one dimensional with the knowledge. Because just in the Hebrew doctrine, they talk about how they don't want you to read no other manuscript except the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. But what about all these other books? They got all this other knowledge that's telling you about what's going to be taking place as far as like calamity and stuff. You got to be a step ahead of the game. You can't just be so confined. But that's what the religion is for. This is why we can't get to the truth. People are boxed in by their ideologies.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to even like one of the things that I want to have a good deep dive in on is like the separation, like this whole this whole separation thing that we see. Religion is already doing that alone, but a couple of shows ago, we had a bunch of people going back and forth about whether humanity began in Africa or it began in America. And it was crazy because at the end of the day, I share with you how I feel about it. My thing is this. It's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me because I'm looking at it as if, okay, let's just say if Mother Africa is our mother and America is our father, or if America is our mother and Africa is our father. Either way it goes, our people have traversed this whole entire planet. And if we're going to sit here and argue over something small like that, I don't even think we like really at the level where we are positioning ourselves to take the oppressor's foot off of our neck because we fighting over dumb shit when we ought to be